What if the most iconic Mustang in movie history wasn't actually a Shelby at all? The silver beast from Gone in 60 Seconds that stole hearts worldwide hides secrets even die-hard fans don't know. From copyright battles that seized YouTubers' cars to a secret 13th Eleanor built with condiment-rattling power. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Gone in 60 Seconds, 1967 Shelby GT500. Fact 1. None were real Shelbys. When you watch Gone in 60 Seconds and see that gorgeous pepper gray Mustang tearing through the streets of Los Angeles, you're looking at what appears to be a genuine 1967 Shelby GT500. But here's the thing that might blow your mind. Not a single one of the Eleanor Mustangs used in the 2000 movie was actually a real Shelby. Every single one of them was a standard 1967 or 1968 Ford Mustang Fastback that had been dressed up to look like the legendary high-performance version. The production team built somewhere between 11 and 12 Eleanor cars for filming, and they wisely decided not to use any authentic Shelbys in the process. This makes perfect sense when you consider what these cars had to go through during production: high-speed chases, jumps, crashes, and all kinds of punishment that would make any car collector cry. Using actual Shelby GT500s, which were already valuable and rare even back in 2000, would have been not only incredibly expensive, but also kind of heartbreaking for automotive enthusiasts. Instead, Cinema Vehicle Services purchased regular Mustang Fastbacks from want ads across Southern California and then transformed them using custom fiberglass body kits designed by the famous car designer Chip Foose and illustrator Steve Stanford. These body kits included custom fender flares, a more aggressive hood scoop, a modified front fascia with driving lights, side skirts, and a redesigned rear end. The modifications were so convincing that most viewers had no idea they were looking at standard Mustangs rather than the real deal. Out of all those Eleanor cars, only 3 were fully functional driving vehicles with complete engines and drivetrains, while the remaining 8 or 9 were essentially shells built specifically for particular stunts like jumps or crash scenes. This approach allowed the filmmakers to preserve their best cars while still capturing all the intense action sequences that made the movie so memorable, all without destroying any genuine pieces of automotive history in the process. Fact 2. Eleanor was almost a GT40. When production began on the 2000 remake of Gone in 60 Seconds, the creative team had a vision that was far more ambitious than what ended up on screen. Production designer Jeff Mann and his team originally wanted to feature a Ford GT40 as the hero car, instead of the 1967 Mustang that eventually became Eleanor. Mann was interviewed in Mustang Monthly magazine, where he described their initial concept, saying they really wanted to see a GT40 blowing through downtown Los Angeles and flying down the LA River doing all kinds of high-speed stunts. The idea made perfect sense from a storytelling perspective because the film's plot required the main character Memphis Raines to steal 50 different high-end cars in one night, including exotic Ferraris and Lamborghinis. The production team worried that a standard 1967 Shelby GT500, while impressive, might not look special enough when placed alongside all these European supercars that would fill the screen throughout the movie. They needed something that could truly stand out and hold its own against the exotics, something that would immediately grab the audience's attention and justify why this particular car was the one Memphis had tried and failed to steal before. However, even though the film had a reported $90 million budget, which was substantial for the year 2000, the reality of using Ford GT40s quickly became impossible. The GT40 is one of the most valuable and historically significant American sports cars ever made, and building an entire fleet of them for a stunt-heavy action movie was simply too expensive, even for a major Hollywood production. The production would have needed multiple cars for different types of scenes, including vehicles that could be damaged or destroyed during filming, and the cost became prohibitive. So the team went back to the drawing board and returned to Mustangs, but with a twist. Jerry Bruckheimer opened the door for man to create a heavily customized variation on the Shelby GT500 that would be aggressive and distinctive enough to compete visually with all those exotic cars, which ultimately led to the creation of the Eleanor we know today. Fact 3. Designed with wood and clay. When most people think about creating a car for a major Hollywood movie, they probably imagine computer designs and high-tech manufacturing. But Eleanor's iconic look came to life through a surprisingly hands-on and old-school process. Legendary car designer Chip Foose actually sculpted the custom body kit by hand, using wood and clay, working in 3 dimensions to bring the vision to life before any fiberglass parts could be manufactured. The process started when hot rod illustrator Steve Stanford drew up initial sketches of what would become Eleanor's distinctive appearance, but those were just 2-dimensional drawings on paper. Production designer Jeff Mann needed something more tangible to show the filmmakers and eventually manufacture for the actual cars, so he brought in Chip Foose to turn those illustrations into reality. Foose took Stanford's concepts and began the painstaking work of physically sculpting each custom piece, including the aggressive hood scoop, the unique front valance with integrated driving lights, the pronounced side skirts, and all the other distinctive elements that would set Eleanor apart from a standard 1967 Mustang. Working with traditional materials like wood and clay allowed Foose to refine the shapes and proportions in ways that drawings alone couldn't capture, letting him adjust curves and angles until everything looked just right. Once he finished sculpting these prototype pieces to perfection, molds were created from them, and those molds were then used to manufacture the fiberglass body kits that would be installed on all the movie cars. This traditional approach to automotive design was the same method used by car companies for decades when creating concept vehicles and custom builds. But it was becoming increasingly rare in the year 2000 when the film was being produced. The entire fabrication process took place at Cinema Vehicle Services in Southern California's San Fernando Valley, where the clay and wood prototypes were transformed into the production-ready parts that would dress up 11 different Mustang fastbacks for filming. Fact 4. The grille came from vans. When you look at Eleanor's aggressive front end, with that distinctive billet grille gleaming between the headlights, you're probably thinking it came from some high-performance racing parts catalog or was custom designed specifically for this iconic muscle car. But here's the weird truth. That signature grille that helps define Eleanor's menacing look was actually adapted from aftermarket pieces originally developed for Chevy Astro vans, the boxy family haulers from the 1990s. Chip Foose, the legendary car designer who brought Eleanor to life, needed to find a grille that would give the Mustang a modern, aggressive appearance while still fitting the 1967 body lines. Instead of fabricating something completely from scratch, which would have been expensive and time-consuming, Foose went hunting through aftermarket catalogs and stumbled upon billet grille inserts that were being sold for Chevrolet Astro vans. These vans were about as far from a high-performance Shelby GT500 as you could get. They were commercial vehicles used by plumbers, electricians, and soccer moms to haul kids and cargo around suburbia. Foose recognized that the horizontal slat design and dimensions could be modified to work perfectly for Eleanor's front fascia. He adapted these Von Grille pieces, incorporating them into the custom front-end design that would become one of Eleanor's most recognizable features. The grille sits prominently between the driving lights and headlamps, giving the car that signature tough, no-nonsense appearance that made audiences fall in love with it. It's one of those perfect examples of creative problem-solving in movie car construction, taking an inexpensive, readily available part from a completely different type of vehicle and repurposing it into something that looks like it was designed for a custom-built performance machine. Nobody watching the film would ever guess that the fierce-looking grille on this legendary Mustang shared its DNA with family vans sitting in Home Depot parking lots across America. Fact 5. Secret 13th Eleanor for Bruckheimer. While most fans know that 11 or 12 Eleanor Mustangs were built for the 2000 movie, very few people realize there was actually a secret 13th car that never appeared on screen. This special Eleanor was built exclusively for producer Jerry Bruckheimer himself. And unlike every single car used in the actual filming, this one was the real deal, an authentic 1967 Shelby GT500. Cinema Vehicle Services, the company responsible for building all the movie Eleanors, created this unique vehicle as a personal gift for Bruckheimer. While the other cars were standard Mustang fastbacks dressed up with fiberglass body kits to look like Shelby's, Bruckheimer's Eleanor started life as a genuine Shelby GT500 with all the original pedigree and documentation that came with it. Under the hood sat a legitimate 428 cubic inch big block V8 engine equipped with dual quad carburetors and connected to a 4-speed manual transmission, making it the only Eleanor with factory Shelby power. The builders at Cinema Vehicle Services retained the movie car's signature styling elements, including the side exit exhaust pipes and the fuel filler mounted on the C-pillar. But unlike the movie cars where these features were just for show, Bruckheimer's Eleanor had fully functional side pipes. The car also received the Total Control engine bay bracing and rack and pinion steering system that gave it superior handling compared to the standard 1967 Mustang setup. According to Ray Claridge, the owner of Cinema Vehicle Services, who oversaw the Eleanor builds, when Bruckheimer's Special GT500 was fired up inside the garage at Bruckheimer Films, the sound was so incredibly powerful that it literally rattled condiments off the kitchen shelves. The deep rumble of that big block engine with working side exhausts created a visceral experience that the movie prop cars, with their smaller engines and fake exhaust routing, simply couldn't match. This 13th Eleanor represented what the movie car could have been if production budgets and stunt requirements hadn't demanded the use of replica builds instead of destroying actual Shelby Mustangs. Fact 6. Side pipes were fake. One of Eleanor's most distinctive features turned out to be purely cosmetic, and the reason why reveals just how challenging movie car builds can be. Those aggressive side exit exhausts that made the car look so menacing, and the fuel fillers mounted on the C-pillars that gave it that race car vibe, were completely non-functional on every single Eleanor used in the film. They were there strictly for show, and the production team had very practical reasons for this decision. The side exit exhausts looked incredible and gave Eleanor that raw, performance-oriented aesthetic that helped it stand out among all the Ferraris and Lamborghinis featured in the movie, but actually making them work on a 1967 Mustang would have been incredibly difficult. The way the Mustang's unibody construction is designed simply doesn't lend itself well to routing exhaust pipes out the sides of the car without major structural modifications that could weaken the chassis. Since these cars needed to survive intense stunt work including jumps, high-speed chases, and crashes, compromising the structural integrity just for functional side pipes wasn't worth the risk. The C-pillar fuel fillers were borrowed from 1971 Mach 1 Mustangs and added another layer of race-inspired styling to Eleanor's appearance, but like the exhausts, they served no actual purpose. The real fuel filler remained in its stock location, hidden away from camera view. Production designer Jeff Mann and builder Chip Foose understood that these visual elements were crucial for creating Eleanor's aggressive character on screen, even if they didn't need to actually function. The fiberglass body kit that Chip Foose designed incorporated these fake components seamlessly, and because they looked so convincing, most viewers never questioned whether they were real. Interestingly, the one exception was producer Jerry Bruckheimer's Special 13th Eleanor, which was built using an actual 1967 Shelby GT500, and on that car, both the side exhausts and the C-pillar fuel filler were fully functional. Fact 7. Wheels inspired by Ford GT40. When Chip Foose was designing Eleanor's custom look for the 2000 movie, he didn't just throw random parts together. He borrowed inspiration from one of the most legendary race cars ever built. The 17 by 8-inch chrome wheels that became one of Eleanor's signature features were actually designed as replicas of the wheels used on the Ford GT40, the American supercar that dominated Le Mans in the 1960s. This wasn't just a random choice. It was a deliberate nod to Ford's racing heritage that connected Eleanor to some of the most iconic machinery in automotive history. The wheels were manufactured by Schmidt, also known as Phil Schmidt Engineering, and they perfectly captured the classic 5-spoke design that made the GT40's wheels so recognizable. While the GT40 was originally considered as Eleanor's replacement before budget concerns made it impossible, the production team found a way to keep that racing DNA alive through these wheel designs. The Schmidt wheels gave Eleanor an aggressive stance that looked period correct for a 1967 muscle car, while also suggesting the performance capabilities of a genuine race car. What makes this detail even more interesting is that these wheels were wrapped in Goodyear Eagle F1 tires, sized at P245/40 ZR17, which were completely modern performance tires that wouldn't have existed in 1967. The combination of vintage-inspired wheel design with contemporary rubber gave Eleanor the visual appeal of a classic car with the actual grip and handling characteristics needed for the intense stunt driving sequences. The wheels didn't just look good, they served a real functional purpose during filming, providing the traction necessary for all those high-speed slides and aggressive cornering that made the chase scenes so memorable. This GT40 connection also tied back to the Shelby legacy, since Carroll Shelby was instrumental in developing the GT40 program for Ford. So even though Eleanor wasn't a real Shelby GT500, and even though she wasn't a GT40 either, those wheels connected her to both legendary machines through thoughtful design choices that most viewers never noticed. Fact 8. The best Eleanor looked the worst one of the strangest ironies from the production of Gone in 60 Seconds involves the car that should have been the crown jewel of the entire fleet. Cinema Vehicle Services was in the middle of building what would become the most mechanically sophisticated Eleanor of all the movie cars, equipped with a brand new Ford Motorsport 351 cubic inch crate engine and outfitted with all the best performance components money could buy, including a Lincoln Versailles rear end and a sophisticated rack and pinion steering system that would make it handle like a dream. This particular car was being built to be the ultimate version of Eleanor, combining authentic performance hardware with the iconic movie styling that fans would come to worship. But then the production team made an unusual request that completely changed this particular Eleanor's destiny. They needed a car to play a very specific role in the final scene of the movie, where Kip gives his brother Memphis a beat-up, ratty-looking Shelby as a gift. A car that's clearly seen better days, but holds the promise of being restored to greatness. Rather than take one of the already worn stunt cars or build a new shell specifically for this throwaway scene, the production crew made the decision to use the nicest Eleanor that was currently under construction. The car that had been destined to be the most pristine and mechanically perfect Eleanor in the entire production was deliberately made to look terrible. The crew finished it in rough primer instead of the signature pepper gray paint, fitted it with a derelict front bench seat that looked like it came from a junkyard, and mounted mismatched steel wheels that destroyed any sense of the car's sleek appearance. So when you watch that final scene and see what looks like a project car that's been sitting in someone's garage for decades, you're actually looking at the best-built Eleanor of them all, just hiding under a costume of intentional neglect. Fact 9. Nick Cage kept his Eleanor. When the cameras stopped rolling on Gone in 60 Seconds in the year 2000, the fate of the surviving Eleanor Mustangs became one of Hollywood's most interesting keeper stories. Out of the 11 or 12 cars built for production, only 7 made it back to Cinema Vehicle Services in one piece after the brutal filming schedule, and 2 of those survivors ended up in some very famous garages. Nicolas Cage, who spent months training at 3 different driving schools and performed most of his own stunt driving in the film, decided he wanted to keep one of the Eleanors for himself. According to reports from the production team, Cage regularly takes his Eleanor out for joyrides, which makes sense considering how much time and effort he put into learning to drive the car at full speed through downtown Los Angeles. He attended the Bondurant Driving School in Phoenix, Arizona, along with Willow Springs and the Bobby Orr Stunt Driving School, specifically to prepare for the role. So keeping the car was like holding onto a piece of that intense experience. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer also kept one of the surviving Eleanors, but his relationship with the car tells a completely different story. Despite owning one of the most iconic movie cars ever built, Bruckheimer is reportedly afraid to actually drive his Eleanor. This seems especially ironic considering he also received that secret 13th Eleanor, the only real 1967 Shelby GT500 in the entire production, which was built exclusively for him with a genuine 428 big block engine and all the working features the movie cars lacked. The remaining 5 Eleanors that survived filming stayed with Cinema Vehicle Services, where they were modified, rebuilt, and repurposed so many times over the years that owner Ray Claridge admitted it became nearly impossible to determine their original condition from when they appeared in the movie. Ray keeps all the original vehicle identification numbers on file in strict confidence to prevent scammers from claiming they own authentic movie cars. Fact 10. Carroll Shelby lost his own lawsuit. In one of the most ironic twists in automotive legal history, Carroll Shelby himself ended up on the losing side of a lawsuit over a car that bore his own name. In the early 2000s, Shelby saw the massive demand for Eleanor replicas after the movie's success and decided to capitalize on it by licensing his GT500 brand to a Texas company called Unique Performance to build official Eleanor tribute cars. It seemed like a perfect fit since the movie car was literally designed to look like a 1967 Shelby GT500. But Denise Halicki, the widow of the original Gone in 60 Seconds creator H.B. Halicki, had other plans. Halicki owned the trademark and copyright to the Eleanor name and character from her late husband's 1974 film. And when she saw Shelby and Unique Performance marketing their cars as Eleanor replicas featured in Gone in 60 Seconds with 6-figure price tags, she filed a lawsuit in 2004 for copyright and trademark infringement. The legal battle dragged on for 4 years, and in 2008, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in Halicki's favor. The court determined that she held exclusive rights to any vehicle named Eleanor or tied to the Gone in 60 Seconds franchise, regardless of who built it. Halicki's lawyer famously stated at the time that it didn't matter if Eleanor was a bus, the magic was in the name itself, and that was what Shelby tried to take. The settlement was a huge blow to Shelby, who had essentially been blocked from producing replicas of a car inspired by his own legendary design work. If Carroll Shelby, one of the most famous names in American automotive history, couldn't legally build Eleanor reproductions without Halicki's permission, it sent a clear message to everyone else in the car community that the Eleanor trademark was untouchable. This lawsuit became the foundation for Halicki's aggressive defense of the Eleanor brand for the next 2 decades, leading to numerous legal actions against builders, shops, and even individual YouTube creators who dared to use the Eleanor name. Fact 11. YouTuber's car was seized. Building an Eleanor tribute car can land you in serious legal trouble, as one popular YouTube creator discovered the hard way in 2020. Chris Steinbacher, the man behind the YouTube channel B is for Build, spent months documenting his ambitious project to create an Eleanor-style Mustang by grafting a 1967 body onto a 2015 Ford Mustang GT. The build was extensive and expensive, requiring thousands of hours of work and significant investment, and Steinbacher shared every step of the process with his hundreds of thousands of subscribers. He installed the Eleanor-esque body kit, made multiple references to building an Eleanor replica specifically, and even mentioned the Gone in 60 Seconds connection throughout his video series. The car had just completed its first test drives and was nearing completion when everything came crashing down. Denise Shakarian Halicki, the widow of H.B. Halicki, who created the original 1974 Gone in 60 Seconds film, owns the Eleanor trademark through her company, Eleanor Licensing, LLC. She has a long history of aggressively defending this trademark, which is legally required to keep it valid under U.S. law. When her legal team became aware of Steinbacher's build, they moved quickly. The YouTuber was hit with a copyright lawsuit, and as part of the settlement, he was forced to hand over the car he'd spent so much time and money building. Even more devastating for his channel, all 14 videos documenting the Eleanor build were removed from his YouTube page. Only a 3-minute video remains, where Steinbacher explains that the build is over and the car is now property of Gone in 60 Seconds. He later stated that the team at GoneIn60Seconds.com were the most unpleasant people he'd ever dealt with, calling them lawsuit happy and terrible at handling the situation. The case served as a stark warning to car enthusiasts everywhere that building an Eleanor tribute, especially if you call it by that name, can result in losing everything you've created. Fact 12. Eleanor received star billing. When Gone in 60 Seconds hit theaters in 2000, moviegoers noticed something unusual in the opening credits. Right there, alongside Nicolas Cage, Angelina Jolie, and Robert Duvall, the 1967 Shelby GT500, Eleanor received her own star billing in the title sequence. This marked the first and only time in cinema history that a Ford Mustang has been credited as a character in a major motion picture, appearing in the same typography and placement as the human actors who starred in the film. The decision to give Eleanor official character status in the credits wasn't just a clever marketing gimmick. The filmmakers genuinely treated the car as a central character throughout the production, giving it a personality, backstory, and emotional arc that rivaled the human protagonists. In the script, Memphis Reigns refers to Eleanor as the one car that got away from him, creating a relationship between man and machine that went beyond typical movie car chases. The car even has dialogue directed at it, with Cage's character talking to Eleanor during critical moments of the film, as if she could hear and respond. This approach to crediting Eleanor reflected how integral the Mustang was to the entire production. The car wasn't just a prop or a vehicle used for stunts. It received more screen time than several of the human supporting actors, had its own dramatic reveals, and served as the emotional centerpiece of the film's climactic chase sequence. Production designer Jeff Mann and the creative team wanted audiences to understand that Eleanor wasn't simply transportation, but rather a co-star with her own story to tell. The star billing also helped establish Eleanor's legacy in automotive and film culture. By elevating the car to character status in the credits, the studio made it clear that this wasn't just another action movie with cool cars. It was a film where the automobile itself carried narrative weight equal to any human performer, a distinction that no other Mustang before or since has achieved in Hollywood. Fact 13. Copyright battle. Finally lost for over 2 decades, building your own Eleanor Mustang replica could land you in serious legal trouble, but a groundbreaking court decision between 2022 and 2025 finally changed everything. The United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit ruled that Eleanor was legally just a prop, not a copyrightable character, which meant the car couldn't be protected by copyright law the way human or animated characters can be. This ruling came after years of aggressive lawsuits filed by Denise Shakarian Halicki, the widow of H.B. Halicki, who created the original 1974 Gone in 60 Seconds film, and it completely invalidated her copyright claims that had been enforced since 2008. The legal battle centered on whether a car could be considered a character worthy of copyright protection, similar to how DC Comics successfully argued that the Batmobile was a copyrightable character in a 2015 case. The court examined all of H.B. Halicki's films featuring cars named Eleanor and applied a 3-part test to determine if Eleanor qualified as a character. According to the judges, a character needs physical and conceptual qualities, must be sufficiently recognizable as the same character whenever it appears, and must be especially distinctive. Eleanor failed on multiple counts because the car's appearance changed dramatically across different films, from a yellow 1971 Mustang in the original to a gray 1967 Shelby GT500 in the remake. And the court found these differences too inconsistent to qualify as a single character. The three judges wrote in their 21-page ruling that Halicki's claims about Eleanor having personality traits like strength, talent, and endurance were examples of overzealous advocacy and embellishment, to say the least. The decision was a massive victory for Carroll Shelby Licensing and Classic Recreations, who had been fighting Halicki's legal team for years. Neil Cummings, co-trustee of the Shelby Trust, announced that licensees and Shelby GT500 owners could finally build and own Eleanor-style cars without fear of lawsuits. When Halicki appealed to the Supreme Court in November 2025, the court declined to hear the case, making the ruling final and officially ending one of the automotive world's longest-running copyright disputes. Fact 14. One Eleanor had manual transmission. When you watch Gone in 60 Seconds, you might assume all the Eleanor Mustangs were identical under the hood, but that wasn't the case at all. While the production built 11 to 12 different Eleanor cars for filming, each one was customized for specific types of scenes, and that included what kind of transmission they had. Most of the Eleanor Mustangs that Cinema Vehicle Services built for the 2000 film were equipped with automatic transmissions, which made sense for a lot of the driving sequences where the focus was on smooth, controlled takes. But one Eleanor stood out from the rest because it was fitted with a Tremec 5-speed manual transmission, making it the only stick-shift Eleanor in the entire fleet. The decision to include a manual transmission in one of the cars wasn't random. Different scenes required different capabilities, and the filmmakers needed vehicles that could handle various driving challenges throughout production. Some Eleanors were built specifically for high-speed chases down the concrete canals of the Los Angeles River, while others were reinforced to survive jumps or designed to slide around corners during drift sequences. The manual transmission Eleanor was likely used for scenes that demanded more precise driver control and a more engaging driving experience, particularly for shots where you could see Nicolas Cage actively shifting gears. The Tremec 5-speed was a popular choice among performance car builders at the time because it offered smooth shifting and could handle the power output from the Eleanor's modified V8 engines, which ranged from 351 cubic inch small blocks to larger displacement motors depending on the specific car. What makes this detail even more interesting is that the production team didn't extensively catalog which Eleanor had which specifications. According to Ray Claridge, who owned Cinema Vehicle Services and oversaw the builds, many of the Eleanor cars were modified, rebuilt, and fiddled with so many times during and after production that it became difficult to determine their original configurations when they appeared in the movie. The cars remaining in their inventory were twisted and adjusted repeatedly to meet the constantly changing demands of the filmmakers. Fact 15. Hero cars worth more than real Shelbys. When you think about movie cars, you might assume they're worth less than the real thing, but Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds completely flipped that idea on its head. The main hero car from the 2000 film, which was actually just a modified 1967 Mustang Fastback and not a genuine Shelby at all, has sold at auction for prices that would make any classic car collector's jaw drop. In 2013, this particular Eleanor went under the hammer and sold for a stunning $1 million, which was already an incredible price for what was essentially a movie prop. Then, when it came up for auction again in January of 2020, everyone expected it to sell for at least the same amount or maybe even more, but it brought in $852,000, which was still an absolutely massive sum of money. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Both of those sale prices were significantly higher than what an actual period-correct 1967 Shelby GT500 would fetch at auction during the same time periods. A genuine Shelby from that era in concours condition, meaning perfectly restored to factory specifications, would typically sell for somewhere in the $600,000 to $750,000 range. So this movie car, which was never a real Shelby to begin with, was consistently commanding higher prices than the authentic muscle cars it was designed to imitate. The hero car that sold was the primary beauty car used for close-up shots throughout the film, and it featured all the custom chip foos, designed body modifications, including the flared fenders, the prominent hood scoop, the central driving lights, and those iconic side exhaust pipes. It was powered by a 351 cubic inch Ford crate motor producing around 400 horsepower, and it had all the signature Eleanor touches like the pepper gray metallic paint with black racing stripes and the famous Go Baby Go nitrous button on the shifter, even though the nitrous system itself wasn't actually functional.